Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another magnificent edition of The Chat with the Camel. And today we are 100% blessed because we have a man that I've spoke to about a month ago, and I was just super impressed with his story, right? Now, he is the COO of The Art of Dental Marketing, which is a super digital agency in Kansas, and they are the leaders in the niche market of dental websites and digital marketing, and are brilliant. And that was great. But the other reason I wanted to talk to him and why he's here with us today is I got to call him a serial success story. Now, why do I say that? One, this man, Will Elliot, is a great chef, and being a chef myself, I can say that because he's a great chef. Right? And he's been featured on the Food Network and all sorts of things. But he's also owned restaurants, he's owned resorts, he's had his hands into private jet airplanes. He's done so much. But what he's really been good at is getting involved in operations and marketing with companies and star trekking their revenue, which means taken them places they've never gone before. So he's got a great story, he's got great ideas, he's got great information, and he's really good to have a chat with. So, Will Elliot, mate, that's your introduction. How are you?
Doing great. Thanks for having me, Shane.
I tell you, mate, I've worked out if the introduction's good, it doesn't matter if the rest is bad. So, I'm going to ask you the first question, and that usually sets us up where we're going to travel. And the first question is, if you could give us the 5-minute elevator pitch of Will Elliott's life, from birth to education up to before you got involved in business. You can talk about who were your influences, what you did you break your leg or something when you were a stupid kid, whatever you want to. Just give us a background for 5 minutes.
Great. I grew up in on the central coast of California, just outside of Santa Barbara, California. So right in between Los Angeles and San Francisco.
Yeah.
Grew up, beautiful weather, beautiful landscape, of course. And my mom was a beautician, owned her own beauty shop. My dad was a conductor on the railroad.
Wow.
Pacific Railroad. So just a pretty normal upbringing as a kid. I got into the restaurant business really as a kid, and my influence, my parents were always friends with restaurant owners, and we frequently went out to eat. So I really young. Plus my grandmother, my mom, and my dad are all very, very good cooks. So.
Yeah.
In the family, my grandfather owned restaurants, and he was a chef in San Francisco. So it came naturally interest in restaurants, and really started out working in Madera, California, which is in the San Joaquin Valley of California, at my grandfather's restaurant. He had passed away, but the owners that had bought it from my grandmother gave me a chance, and so I started at 13 years old in the restaurant. Just kind of went from there, but a pretty general, normal upbringing. Nothing super spectacular as far as I didn't break my leg. As a matter of fact,
Wow.
I actually didn't break any bones until I was older. So pretty successful, not for lack of trying, but pretty successful as far as just the normal stuff. Played basketball in high school and junior high, and went to college and junior college.
Wow.
But I started in business really young. So
13.
That was pretty much my.
So the first businesses you got involved in were restaurants. So
yeah, restaurants.
You're only, at 13, were you cooking or were you washing dishes? What were you doing?
Washing dishes, busting tables.
Busting tables.
At 13.
At 13.
And moved into the kitchen, dishwashing and doing some prep work, the grunt work, peeling potatoes and carrots and that kind of stuff, and then dishes. at by the time I was 15, 16. Then I really started cooking after when I was 16, I started cooking. By the time I was 17, I was a respectable cook.
Yeah.
Hold my own in the kitchen.
Okay. So who was your influence when you started to move from cook to chef?
Cook to chef. I worked at a place called Trader Nick's Restaurant, a very famous restaurant and very successful restaurant on the Central Coast in Pismo Beach, California, which is a destination location for it's a vacation town, if you will, right on the beach there. And Trader Nick's was a large restaurant right on the cliffs, so overlooking the ocean. Very well respected, in the top 50 restaurants in the state of California. And I became the kitchen manager / chef there, and really I was there for 4 years and kind of made my chops, made my bones. I had done and finished doing an apprenticeship under a Hungarian chef in Santa Maria, California. And so I was still real green, but I had good work ethic. I'd work, I'd even come in at Trader Nick's if we had too much stuff to do. Obviously the owner had a budget. I'd come in and work for free for the first couple hours just to I was getting ahead of everything. But did very well on the Central Coast of California, and really reached probably the top restaurant on the Central Coast at the time, and have been there and won some contests and got a little bit of publicity and such for being there. And I decided, I want to go to a bigger pond, if you will. So I actually quit that job, and I didn't tell anybody I'd been a chef or I knew certain things. I said I was just a line cook just out of school, and I moved my wife and my children were very small then. Everybody never left California as far as lived anywhere else, and we moved to Phoenix, Arizona.
Wow.
I wanted to learn Southwestern cooking, and I wanted to in a larger metropolitan area. So I lied my way into, because I wanted to learn. So I said I didn't know anything. I didn't know how to do anything. I was fresh cook, and I could flip some eggs or whatever, but that's about all.
Yeah, you liar, right?
Yeah, it didn't take long before the general manager and the food and beverage director of the resort that I was working the executive chef would go missing, and when he was out missing, someone had to cut the meat, someone had to take the orders in, someone had to make the sauce, someone had to make the stock, someone had to set up everything. And so, eventually they noticed, well, this guy, he's just making this up. I mean, he's better than our executive chef. So they quickly moved me up the ranks there, at a place called Bola's Grill right in downtown Old Scottsdale. And I got poached out of there by a chef, an executive chef, that he had been at the Wigwam, which is a big resort there, and then moved over to the 8700, which is a very fine dining restaurant. I moved there, and then eventually became the executive chef of the 3 restaurants that owner owned.
Fantastic.
Prior to
I've got one
moving on.
question for you. Okay. I don't know if it's the same now, but back in the day, the head chef was almost like a drill sergeant in the Marine Corps. I mean, they would throw stuff at you. They would be tough. Gordon Ramsay has nothing on some of those guys, right?
No, my apprenticeship, doing my apprenticeship under the Hungarian chef, and he was trained under the Soviet Union communist regime.
Oh my God.
So they would send people to Yugoslavia, where a lot of the resorts were for the Communist Party would go for vacation with their families. And so they'd start those guys out at, they took him away from his family, moved him in there like when he was 12 years old. And,
Yeah.
He snuck under a barbed wire fence when he was about 30 and snuck out of the country and got to America. So, he threw a 10-inch French knife at my head one time, missed. But yeah, his famous thing would be, 15, 20 minutes before dinner service, I would be making all the sauces for the night, and he'd come and taste the sauce, and if he didn't like it, he'd throw the pan, the sauce, everything in the trash. So you got to get the melted plastic off of the pan before he can even start again. And of course, this is 15, 20 minutes before dinner service. So
Yeah.
you learn that lesson really quick to get the sauce right. That's for sure.
Did that sort of, like, I know, I went through some schools, not just in cooking, but we'll get to the business side of it again in a minute. But for me, a lot of my ability now is because I had the crap beaten out of me, because I had things thrown at me. Now, you and I both know if we tried to do that in this day and age, there'd be a lawsuit. We'd be outed on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Our life would be over if we did it.
Right.
But me, I find, and it's one good thing about living in the Philippines, I could still get away with a little bit, right? But the kids here, the long-termers that are now executives in TheCamel, will all say when they went through the baptism of fire with Boss, it was the best thing that ever happened to them. Right?
Yeah.
But you notice the weaker ones, because I behave now. I don't know, Clusive. I haven't made anyone cry in a long time, right?
Right.
But they are not as strong. Whereas the other guys, man, I tell you can put. And I think myself, it was an old school, tough school, but a bloody good school.
Yeah. Yeah. No. I often actually look at through my career, I've even in other industries, I've picked people that come from the hospitality industry, if they're interested in moving, just because I know, depending on what part of the hospitality industry and where they came from, but I know I can rely on them. I know that they get it, that when you're scheduled to be at work, you better be at work.
Yeah.
When you don't work, you got to carry your own weight, and in the hospitality industry, especially in food and beverage, if you don't carry your own weight,
yeah,
I'd yell at you and stuff as a chef, but you got to worry about your other guys on the line too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they'll throw stuff at you too. And I think because if you're in a kitchen line, and this is why we had this conversation, the first chat we had, what I love about a kitchen line is there's so much pressure if you screw up.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're right. That head chef, it's 20 minutes before opening and you're making the sauces. If they taste like crap, the whole service is gone.
Right.
So, that pressure, it's when you can adapt that. So no wonder you hire them from those sort of industries. They're used to it, like Clarissa, who helps me out here. She worked in McDonald's. I worked in McDonald's. And I'm telling you, when you looked and someone say bus, and there's 100 people in a bus just got off and want their hamburgers in 3 minutes, that's pressure.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
And if you can handle that, you can handle anything.
That's exactly right.
You've done the cooking bit, you've done the executive chef, you've done all that stuff. What was the first move to putting your money on the table and opening your own place? What happened?
So that was it was actually it was great for me because I didn't have to put my own money on the table.
Oh, you didn't?
They put the money on for me. So I made a deal at a restaurant called that I named Cirrus, which was my flagship restaurant, the best restaurant I had out of all of them throughout my career. It was in Las Vegas, in Summerlin, actually.
Wow.
It's in a new resort. I got there. I got a reputation for the opening guy. So I opened 7 resorts over my career. And you get that reputation of, oh, they can handle it. They can come in and handle, finish the construction and do all that kind of stuff, order all the FF&E and everything, make the menus, hire all the staff, train them. Opening a resort is a total nightmare.
Yeah.
And so you get that reputation, especially I had opened Marival prior to that, which is a big spa resort, quite well known. And I had opened the Elms Resort and Spa, reopened the Elms and Resort and Spa by that time. So I was well known. I'd done some work for Ritz-Carlton as well.
Wow.
On opening their spa restaurants in Florida. So I had a reputation of being the guy you call to, if you want to do a spa wellness type of feel, especially coming from Marival. A lot of publicity, and we were very well known for what we did. And we had a lot of Hollywood influence there. So a lot of stars, so it means a lot of media. Oprah was a big fan. Janet Jackson was a big fan.
Wow.
Jim Carrey. Those type of people, that generates publicity when those folks are fans and they come and stay at a resort a lot. So at Sears, I made a deal. They gave me a percentage of ownership if I came.
Yep.
And opened the flagship restaurant. I had more than one restaurant there, but the flagship one was one I had ownership in. And it was my greatest achievement as far as the restaurant business goes. That's for sure. Really got to get down to really identify what wellness cuisine was, what it meant. It's something that I invented. So I flushed it out fully there. It was kind of like, I was doing the Whole Foods market thing before anybody even knew there was such thing as Whole Foods.
Yeah.
So, back in 1999, there was no one shopping at Whole Foods.
No, no one cared.
They only had one store.
Yeah.
So,
and then all of a sudden it became a thing, right?
Yep.
And everyone wanted to do it. So this is the next interesting bit. You're a great chef. You're successful at opening all these resorts and restaurants. You're on the Food Network. You're a bit of a superstar, right? And this is all before Hell's Kitchen and all that stuff became big, all right?
Right.
Because when you were big then, you were big by word of mouth and people turning up, getting their photograph taken. Now it's all YouTube and crap and blah, blah, blah. And you can be famous in 5 minutes. It's like that, what's his name? Salt thingy? Salt Bay or whatever he is,
Yeah,
he was famous in 5 minutes. Then he got into the World Cup problem. He's not as famous anymore.
Right.
But then you've decided, okay, that's a season of my life.
Right.
And you've decided to move into other things, which I assume had to be your money.
Well, how that worked, it was. And how that worked was you have different types of chefs when you get to a certain level. And especially in Las Vegas and in really big resorts.
Yes.
If you're in a really big resort, you're responsible for a lot of money, tens of millions of dollars, in some cases more than that. If you're the executive chef at the MGM Grand, you're responsible for $100 million worth of revenue.
It's a corporation.
You're an executive. You're not a chef anymore. You don't
No.
you don't have time to cook anymore.
No.
So you're running around, orchestrating everything and running the business part of it, which I was good at, and that was all fine. But I also wanted to cook. So even at Sears, every single night, 7 days a week, I was on the line.
Yeah.
I actually worked the middle, even though people thought I was crazy. They're like, "Chef, what are you doing?" Like, it's my food. I'm going to still be involved in cooking it.
Yeah.
Where my downfall came is I'd been doing it for so long that even at 31 years old, my knees were starting to go. So that being on the line, the shifting back and forth all the time, constantly, nonstop. So I started being this, kind of hurts my knees.
Yeah.
And also a light bulb went off and said, I'm working really hard. and making a lot of people a lot of money, and I
Yeah.
have for a long time. Maybe I want to make some money for myself.
Yeah.
If I'm going to work this hard. So that's when I went out and opened my own company in 2001.
And what was that?
That was a consulting and operations company. It's still in business today.
Yeah.
It's and what I would take on at first resorts, restaurants,
Because that was your niche.
Yeah, a casino operation, but hospitality based businesses was what I was.
Did you use to get that established? Did you use the network you'd already created, or was it start from cold?
So it was a very small part of the network that I had already created. I met a gentleman that he was a doctor out of Oklahoma City, and they had he and four of his doctor friends
Yeah.
got drunk at a bar one night in Las Vegas because they all had second homes in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And it was a restaurant bar, a supper club with a small casino operation. And they bought the place while they were sitting at the bar. Got five doctors from Oklahoma City, know nothing about and they bought this place. And it wasn't in its finest day either. It had been very successful for many years, but it was actually on a downward trajectory when they bought it. So I met him through a friend of my wife's, actually, that her and they met because our kids went to school together.
Yeah.
So it was kind of weird, but that turned into the main owner of that establishment. When he brought me on, I was there for about a year and a half and got it turned around for them and got their money out of it. Which saving grace, just to get their money out. Got their money out, but he introduced me to a new concept that he had joined and he was part of, called the private residence club business.
Wow.
Which was something brand new. No one ever had heard of it or done it. It's not timeshare. It's not fractional. It's like a private golf club.
Yeah.
So you buy a membership bond, you become a member, and you get to use the assets for a discounted rate on an exclusive basis. That company, I went to meet them, and it wasn't really, there was four guys and a little office in Connecticut. They are out of money. They burned through all their seed money, which was only $1.5 million. And if you're buying real estate, that isn't anything anyway, especially resort real estate. I became part of that firm just on a consulting basis, and took over the company 30 days later as president. And we went from zero revenue and in the hole $1.5 million to 27 months later, I had done 179 million year to date in revenue, had 800 members, 144 properties and assets all over the world. So if you were a member of the club, you could travel,
go anywhere.
Yeah, pretty much anywhere, but they're private homes. So if you wanted to go to Cabo San Lucas, I had homes there on the golf courses and on the beach. You could pick your location and stay there with your own private chef, with your own luxury car if you wished. $150 a night. I did all your grocery shopping and everything for you, picked you up at the airport. You had your own local concierge there to fix anything, make the hot air balloon reservations.
Wow.
Deep sea fishing or tea times or whatever. And I had those assets all over the world. So if you wanted to go to London, or if you wanted to go to Paris or New York City or Aspen or Vail or Beaver Creek, I had assets everywhere.
Yeah.
So all over the world.
In a way, it was sort of still your comfort zone, right? Because it was hospitality, weather.
Right.
All right.
That's right.
So if you work it out, some of the people that listen to our chat, they're in this comfort zone. They're probably major account manager or CEO or something of whatever industry. And let's say they're with Google, been there 15 years. Next thing they get the email, hey, thanks very much. It's been nice, but goodbye. And what they got to do, the market they're in is flooded with 800 zillion applicants. So all of a sudden, they've got to look at getting out of that comfort zone, that niche industry they're so used to. And a lot of them will say, okay, maybe I'll start a digital marketing agency, right? And sell websites and SEO and all this sort of stuff. But, or they might decide they're going to buy a franchise in a hamburger thing, whatever, right? But they're going to move away. So you must have got to the point where comfort zone, made a lot of money, had a lot of fun, but it's time to do something different.
Yeah. Yes.
What was the catalyst in that?
Well, I think with leaving the restaurant industry, and yes, I was still in a comfort zone, but with Abercrombie and Kent Destinations was the name of the company, the club. And the new things that came into it were, I didn't know anything about private aviation, and we were doing a ton of private aviation to the point where we finally just bought our own planes and opened our own company. I didn't know anything about car rentals, but we opened our own exotic car rental company. The things that the hospitality industry brought to the table, really, in building Abercrombie and Kent, especially as fast as we built it, was the things. If I couldn't, in the hospitality industry, if your dishwasher breaks or the walk-in goes down, yeah, you'll call the service company or whatever, but you're going in. I mean, there's no way
you can't close the door.
I'm not losing, $10,000 worth of shrimp. I'm going up and see if I can fix the freezer before the guy gets here, or whatever we have to do, we're going to do. I'm going in. And as a leader of the business in the hospitality industry, if you're the executive chef, you're also the guy that when the grease trap gets backed up, you're diving in there to fix it.
Correct.
And so with what happened with Abercrombie Kent Destinations is, somebody one time in one conversation in Las Vegas told me, well, you can't have, if you want a Ferrari for your member in the driveway when they get there for your Las Vegas property, that's good, but you can't do the same thing in Miami. Well, they shouldn't have said that, because not only did I buy his company out from under him, I put that Ferrari and Lamborghini in Miami as well as in Las Vegas, and Cabo San Lucas, and everywhere else where, if you wanted a Denali, which a lot of people bring in their families, they wanted a Denali, then I would put a Denali in the driveway. So I just bought the company, and out of necessity, I built the company. Same thing with the private planes. I had these guys, members, complaining to me constantly, man, it's so expensive. Well, yes, it's very expensive. No matter how you do it. But I can give it to you if I buy the plane and the pilots work for me. I own my own fleet of planes, and then you can fly them just at my cost. And I won't put any profit on it because you're members. You get to it's a member.
Well, do you think that the nuts and bolts, it's like, if you've got someone that's a Toyota mechanic, right? They should be able to work on a Chevrolet. But then you get someone that's worked on a Ferrari, it's either beneath them or they got no bloody idea or they're too lazy. They won't work on a Ford, right? So when you're looking yourself at business, do you think basically I could grab you and I could find a plastics manufacturer and say, this guy's doing $3 million a year. He reckons he could do 30. Can you go in there and build it up, Star Trek it to 30? Are you using the same set of tools that you did building the kitchen, the resort thing, the airline thing? Is it the same set of tools?
Well, I'll give you a real world example. I could go from Abercrombie and Kent Destinations and doing that, business, buying residents, maintaining them, all of that, all hospitality stuff, not the private plane stuff and not the not some of the safari stuff, and some of that stuff was different. But then I sold my interest in that, and what did I do? I went out and took over a condom company.
Condom.
And condom. And
Wow.
our biggest client was the U.S. government, and we made 1 billion condoms a year and sent them mostly to South America under U.S. aid. So we took a latex glove factory and basically cut all the fingers off, right, except for one, and we were dipping condoms. So yes, to answer your question, it's now become very clear to me, and it did early, by the time I was in my mid 30s, it became very clear to me that a business is a business is a business. You make a product or service, you provide. You have to have a way to deliver that product and service, and you have to have a way to sell that product and service.
Okay.
Market it and sell. So the mechanics are being able to deliver it. A lot of people forget that part. They're like, you'll see a lot of people, well, I'm a great salesman. Yeah, but if what you sell, you can't actually deliver. It doesn't matter how great of a salesperson you are. And the same way with operations. You can be the greatest operator in the world, but if you can't sell the product,
useless.
What's the difference? Right.
But they interviewed, what's his name that owns the Mavericks? Oh, God, I can't remember his name. And I was talking about, what's his name?
It's right on the tip of my tongue.
Tip of my tongue. We know who he is.
Yes, we have mutual friends actually. So in some.
Oh, he's a brilliant guy. Oh, Mark Cuban.
Yeah, right? Mark Cuban.
So Mark Cuban, they interviewed him and said, okay, if we put you in a strange town, you got no money, could you be a billionaire again? He said, absolutely. All right? Because once you've done it, it's basically the same principle, and you just do it again. And I know in my case, I've been pretty well off. Once broke, twice broke, 3 times stayed there, right? Purely and simply, and it was the same principle to get it all going again. And you could put me anywhere in the world and I will be successful, and I'll eat and I'll do well, right? Because I'm using the same principles. So let's look at digital marketing now, all right?
Okay.
Which is crazy business. But again, the same mechanics. But you're in a way, you're involved in a really good company, right?
Yes.
Fantastic niche market, which is dental, love it, and they do a real good job. But if someone else was out there and they're saying, hey, I'm going to get in this digital marketing business, what do you see are the pitfalls, normal mistakes? You walk in there and you go, you know what, your prawns are off, your fish smells, and your menu's really boring. That's why you're not making any money. What are the boring menu items of a digital marketing agency?
Well, in my experience, the part that a lot of people lose sight of, which is almost amazing and surprising to me, is that they forget to understand the consumer to the point. I always look at it this way. The way I do it is, would it work on me? Would I buy that product if it was presented to me that way? Or I'd say, screw you, I don't want that product at all, because you just presented it to make it unappealing to me. In today's day and age, with how much stuff we're hit with all of the time, it seems to me that you need to figure out who your consumer is, who your customer really is, and then cater to what the information they need to know, and knock off all the other noise that isn't necessary, or that they don't want, or that turns them off. You'd be surprised. It's amazing. In digital marketing, I've watched people, in fact, I did it today, where I watch other folks that, who are you marketing to? You're marketing to someone that is about 30 years younger than your actual customer.
Yeah.
So why are you marketing to them? They're never going to buy what you're selling. Maybe you've got the greatest technology and it's the greatest thing in the world and all the stuff you've got going on, but is it turning into money? Is any of it turning into sales for your client? this at the end of the day, we all like to do something that's important to us. I know I do.
Yeah.
I like to do something that I enjoy. I just happen to love to build companies and grow them. That's my enjoyment thing. Doesn't really matter what the company is, but I want to be able to stand behind what I'm doing and make it meaningful. But at the end of the day, it's also about money.
Yes.
You're also trying to sell something.
Yeah.
And trying to or make something, distribute something, whatever. It's still about commerce.
Do you think a lot of people actually forget that point? Your reason to go into business is to make money?
I do. I think that a lot of people, and again, I saw it. This week has been another one of those weeks that happens almost every week when I'm looking at it going, hey, at the end of the day, guess what? We have to pay your paycheck. The client has to pay his rent.
Yeah.
He has to pay the phone bill. So all this is great. We can say, look at this great new shiny penny. But if we can't sell the thing and create revenue, then none of it matters. It doesn't make any difference. I think we've gone way on the complicated side of marketing, that we've gotten so complicated and gotten so scientific with all these metrics and all this information we have now, and AI this and all this stuff that's just, and that's all good. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily what's selling the product. In a lot of cases, it's not doing the job. It's marketing to the person that's not going to buy it.
Do you think, for instance, if what was the name of the guy? I can't remember his name. I'm not going to do this anymore. I can't think. They're on the tip of my tongue, and I can't remember their names. Right? Wolf of Wall Street. Jordan Buffett. Jordan?
Yeah.
Okay. You know, he did that. Jordan Buffett?
No, not Buffett. I know who you're talking about. Wolf of Wall Street. Yeah.
Wolf of Wall Street, right? And he does in his training program, Sell Me the Pen, right?
Right.
A lot of people go, oh, it's a bit of waffle, blah, blah, blah. But you know what? If you can't sell that damn pen, how can you sell a digital marketing service? Because why? It needs creativity to sell the pen. And what do you got to do first? You got to find out, well, what is the things that you need in a pen? And then you demonstrate those things. One of the great things I find is people get so caught up in the razzle dazzle, and you said it, the technology, they forget one thing. Someone's got to buy the stuff, and you've got to know why they need it, what benefit it'll be for them, and that's what you present them. And that's been around since they made the wheel. Right. Sorry, that's how old that technology is on selling to customers, right? And no AI is ever going to take that away from people, right? But so many of them, you know, get caught up in the glitz and glamour. Even in restaurants, they'll spend $1 zillion opening the place up with the worst menu of all time that nobody wants to eat it.
Right.
So it's the same with digital marketing companies. And I find it so frustrating when I say, okay, who's your market and why are they going to buy it off you and what are they going to want? Can you explain that to me? No. Oh, but I make beautiful megapixel, awesome, sensational, Mac-breaking website. No one gives a shit, right? Will it help people book? Will it help people buy? Right? That's what they care about.
Right. And what's the biggest, I mean, and also people in digital marketing, they lose sight of what's your biggest problem in digital marketing in an agency setting. What's your biggest problem? I had this conversation actually today. So what's the biggest problem that a digital marketing company has? Even a successful digital marketing company, what's their biggest problem? Customer churn. They never keep customers.
No.
And they don't keep them because they don't consistently perform to give them enough to keep their interest enough to say, there's no way I'm jumping ship on this guy. Every month he gets me whatever. If it's in dentistry, he gets me 20 new patients every single month. That's what he said he's going to do. and that's what he does. So there's
Yeah.
no way I'm looking. The grass is not greener on the other side.
No.
And maybe once in a while you will, those that they'll get wooed into, you know, they'll get courted and date somebody else for a couple dates, and then they go, yeah, this is not working. I'm going back to my old boyfriend.
Yeah.
You know, that delivered on a consistent basis.
Yeah.
And that's what I think. I mean, in my opinion, that's what digital marketing and marketers and some of the biggest marketing companies, that they don't, their churn is 40-50%.
Yeah.
And that's fine, but boy, you spend a lot of money on sales and marketing your own product
Yeah.
to just get new clients all the time.
Yeah. What do they say it takes? How much more to get a new customer rather than keep an old one? It's a massive percentage.
Yeah, well, in our case, it's a couple 100% more.
Yeah.
So if I lose even $1,000 client, it's going to cost me at least $3,000 or $4,000 to get a new one to replace them.
So what's your give them love, they never want to leave you and look for another secret?
One is I'm honest with them. So you know, a lot of people, when you're in marketing and you're marketing, especially like a chef's a great example. You know, we love to see our name, you know, up on the billboard.
Oh yeah.
See our name on TV and all that. And you know, go into all these particulars about this and that and how great this new, you know, way of preparation we came up with, and all that's fine, except for you get to a point where, you know what, they don't care.
No.
They just want to eat it.
Yeah, because it tastes good.
Yeah, they just want to eat it, man.
Does it fill my tummy?
Shut up. Yeah, shut up and cook. You
Yeah,
know?
just shut up and cook.
Yeah,
I went yesterday. I had to go to a meeting, which is about an hour from here, and there's this little Indian restaurant, right, that I saw on Facebook 6 months ago, and I've always wanted to eat there because I love Indian food. This place is in like a housing estate. It can seat 15 people, right? When I drove up, I had my wife, my father-in-law, mother-in-law, and my baby. You know the smell, the garam masala, right? Hit my nose and pulled me inside that restaurant. I didn't give a rat's bum if it was dirty. I didn't care about the seats, the table. You know what? That food was just bloody awesome. I thought I was in Bombay, right? And she's a Filipina who's not even a trained chef, right? I said to her, who did you study under? Stupid question, right? And she said, I had a lot of Indian friends.
Yeah.
But she cooked, I tell you, Will, with so much love. The food was so clean. And I just said I was a pig. I needed Alka-Seltzer when I got home, right? What was my point? I've been to some of the best Indian restaurants, and they had nothing on this gal in a little shop front with 15 pieces. It reminds me of, there's a lady in Bangkok. She's got the dirtiest, gruntiest restaurant, and she's a Michelin star chef.
Yeah.
Right? I saw her on, there was a series. She's like 88 years old, right? And it's the smallest little joint, and she's famous for her lobster omelet.
Yes. Crab omelet.
Yeah, crab omelet, right?
Crab omelet, yeah.
In Singapore, there's a Michelin food stall.
Yeah.
Like it's a food stall. You sit on those little plastic chairs.
Yeah.
Who cares? The food is sensational, right? And I think that's one of the points where, you know, you sit back and when you're presenting in the digital marketing business, they don't care.
No, they don't care.
That customer, or what's his problem? I need people to book and buy. I need to rank in Google. I need customers to give me great reviews on Facebook. How are you going to help me do that?
Right. Well, and to a point, they've been taught, at least to dentistry, they've been taught to think about all of these fancy reports, and at the end of the day, I have regular meetings with doctors where they say, how am I doing on my SEO? How am I doing on my paid ads campaign? How am I doing on social media? And I'm happy to take the call. I'm happy to go through it with them and explain it to them. But then I said, listen, we're going to go through this, what's your page authority? What's your domain authority? But doctor, at the end of the day, we're going to go through these numbers. I'm going to go through this practice with you, and we're going to go through and I explain it all to you. I even brought on my SEO guy to help explain. And so we're going to explain everything to you. And so we go through it, we explain it all to him. And I said, now you understand, we've spent 45 minutes going through what all this means. You don't care.
No.
I'm telling you, you don't care. You may think you care. Somebody may have told you it's important to know what your page authority is and your domain authority is. You don't care. You want to know, when I look up dental implants and I'm in Houston, Texas, that you come up number 3 on Google, that you're the third one right there, Mr. Doctor. Okay. You want to know that you're spending, $1,000 on this paid ad on Google, and your return is $3,000. That's what you want to know.
That's
you
it.
Don't care about anything else. All these other reports and all these other statistics, who cares? You certainly don't care. And since you're the only one, it's a unique business in dentistry, because the only one in the building that's a revenue generating source is a doctor. There isn't anybody, hygienist, but that's not where the money is.
No.
That doesn't keep the lights on. If it did, we'd have dental hygienist clinics all over the United States, right? If it did keep the lights on, but it obviously doesn't. So you're the one making the money. So you just go back, let us, our job is to make sure we keep people in your chair that are qualified, that should be there.
That's it.
They're going to get a life-changing experience because they did.
Life-changing experience. I love that. What makes me go, I have one dentist and I've had her here for like 5 years now. I love that woman. I hug her every time I go there. Why? I'm a big, tough guy, Will, but I'm shit frightened of dentists, all right? Okay? And the number one reason I saw her was pain-free, great look, pain-free, great look, will make you relax. I didn't care what her offer. I didn't care. But I go there because she settles me down. She gives me a hug. She holds my head. She numbs me before she jabs me. And then I'm just putty, and I lose it. Puts meditation music in my ears. I don't care about anything else.
Right.
That hot button selling, as we used to call it back in the day. One good question. I don't know if you've noticed this. Let's say it is a dental practice. Are they interested, and then the interest drops off when you tell them this will cost you 20 grand? Or does their excitement continue to be maintained, if you'll say, for $800 a month? A big number, they lose interest, but just a monthly maintenance fee, no matter what it is, that works for me.
It depends on what their actual goal is. And I have this conversation with every single new client. I personally have this conversation. I onboard, even with account managers and such, I still have a 45-minute conversation.
You're still a line manager, man.
Right. It's personal conversation. What are you really trying to get out of this? What's really important to you? Because, hey, some dentists, they don't, they enjoy working 3 days a week. That's their thing. They don't want to be multimillionaires. They want to be comfortable, and this is what they want to do. And they'll have a very respectable, I want this many patients, and these are the kind of patients I want. I know what that's going to equal dollar-wise. And that's what I want out of my practice. Okay. And other ones are, hey, help me figure out a way to turn this into an empire. And that's a different conversation
Yeah.
altogether. So it depends on what their goals are, first of all, and to make them understand what it's going to take, because they don't
Yeah.
always understand.
Yeah,
So
good point.
I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
You're a periodontist in downtown Manhattan, New York, and you come to me and you say, I want to turn my $1 million a year practice into a $10 million a year practice, and I've got, $2,000 a month to spend in advertising. I'll tell you, go somewhere else. There's no way I can do it. I can't do it.
No.
It's impossible to do it. So I need way more money than that. Or if you're a cosmetic dentist in Beverly Hills or Bel Air and you want to triple your practice revenue, then you need the money to pay for that. We don't need it all up front. We can go in steps.
Yeah.
Where we're not going to get it all. Your practice can't even handle going from 1 million to 10 million in a year. It's going to take us time to build your practice as well. So, but it's also going to take commitment on your part that it's going to be a big number, if that's what you want to do. More often than not, the folks that want that big number understand that, and they're like, okay, if I have a big check, great. The people that just want to the docs that just want to make their practice better, but still be big, have a really good life balance. And if you look at most dentists, at least in the United States, if you go to make an appointment, they're probably open 4 days a week usually.
Yeah. Mine works 3.
Yeah. So, they have pretty good life balance going.
They're not bad. And, they trained for 10 years to do it, so I don't blame them. But I know, like, with plumbers, electricians, all those guys, if you try to talk to them about, and we'll need 10 grand to do that, they'll just walk away. But if you say to them, we're going to do all this, I need you to sign a contract for 1 year, and it's going to cost you $500 a month, $1,500 a month, and you're going to get 30 phone calls. They'll go, done. Here's my credit card. Right. But if you try and hit them with boom, so maybe it's a professional services thing. That tradies, what they want, they just want the bloody phone call. I need my dunny fixed that's blocked, right? And I go in there, I fix their toilet, but I also find all their plumbing is rusted, and I add value and upsell them to replace all their plumbing. All right. I'm loving
and one thing that just one last note on that. One thing that they do at Art of Dental Marketing, they did far before I was around, and I really believe it and think it's a great thing that they do, is they don't do contracts. So you can, if you want to fire us because you don't think we're doing a good job, then
we don't have one. We have one major corporate. We have a yearly thing that actually we don't resign. It rolls over, right? It's rolled over for 7 years. All right. And the only reason we had to sign a contract because they're a major corporation that's a public listed company and they've got to do that.
Right.
But I say to people, like what you just said, if you don't love me anymore, go. And I've had a few I've fired. There's been a divorce proceeding. Right.
I've had that too.
Yeah, but
I've had that too.
Most of them, they stay, and then there's others where, okay, their needs change, and we're not the right fit anymore. We don't, we just, they feel like they want a youngie that they go to a different nightclub or something. I don't know, but most of the time, it's it's a love affair. It's a good marriage, because in the Philippines there's no divorce. Right. And so when we hook up with someone, we got to think it's going to be for life. Right. So, couple of quick questions, because we're getting to the end of the hour.
Okay, great.
Right. How do you feel about AI?
I feel that it's not accurate. My experience, I was an early adopter. I was like, this is great. And the reason why I was an early adopter was need. I couldn't find, this was, I don't know, maybe 6-7 years ago. I had great content writers, and I have had for the past probably 8-9 years, but the volume was such that I couldn't hire enough of them because I couldn't find them that were good quality writers. That's a talent, to be able to write content is a definite talent. That's for sure.
It is a talent.
And so I turned to AI to try to make up the shortfall that I had, and so that I could use AI to do some of the heavy lifting, and then turn, product that was maybe 80-90% done over to a writer, and they only had to spend 10 to 15% time on it instead of 100% time. Failed miserably. And I've tried it several times, and even with the latest greatest coming out, I watched a newscast the other day. I can't remember. I think it was on CNN, where it was on a network news, and they were showing, how inaccurate it is. And they were doing it real time. And, Microsoft is not pulling back their AI, even though it's done terribly. They're going to go ahead and go for it. They're leaving it. Google's, obviously deep in it, but it's not accurate. And so the problem is they've almost created their own failure because of the content. So much of the content that's available digitally is not accurate.
No,
a lot of it is accurate. Don't get me wrong. It's where I find out things too. I Google them all the time, but you also got to take it with a grain of salt. Is it who'd it come from? Is it a reputable source? AI is not doing that. It's just pulling it out of a big pool, as far as I can tell. I'm no computer expert, but so I'm not a big believer, because I've never been satisfied with the quality.
No, and it's another one of those ones where geeks love it, right?
Yeah.
It's another one of those ones where people think, who go back a month ago, could not write a blog, and now believe they're Pulitzer Prize winners, right? And I don't know, I use it just to get a basic outline, but it can't write a blog like me, because I have that Aussie sense of humor. I'm sarcastic, I use movies, and I get a brainwave and I start to write. It's like when I'm cooking, I have a basic recipe, but you know what it's like. Then I go, I taste and I go, shit, cinnamon would be great in there.
Yeah,
right. And I just add a bit of this, a bit of that, bit of this. That to me is a chef. The guy that using the AI is a cook.
Right. That's a great analogy, yes.
And I can't say they're going to replace us. All right, last question. Because you're of the older school like me, you're not as old as me though. Okay, if you got invited to a high school talk, one of those ones where, like the Admiral, former Navy SEAL, who said, you want to be successful? Make your bed, right?
Right.
If you had to give your speech to those high school graduates, what's the number one Will Elliot bit of advice? That's the make your bed comment.
Probably one thing that I learned a long time ago, and I've always lived by it, and it seems simple, but better, faster for less.
Wow.
One of my things that I have continuously lived by. I learned it from a mentor. He was one of the 5 founding fathers of the Ritz-Carlton Corporation.
Wow.
And he would always say, better, faster for less, better, faster for less.
Better, faster for less.
Yeah. And if you think about it, it's all boiled down. It sounds really simple, but you can put it to almost anything that you do.
I love it. Yeah, I love it. That's good. It's like I become a apostle devotee of Peterson. What's his first name? God, I'm having a mind blank this morning. All right. What's his name? Oh, my guru. And I listen to the guy all day. And he makes a statement, Find what you're good at and get 3 times better at it. Right? And I love that. That's like what you just said. You know, I've enjoyed this hour. I've learned so much. I just got to say, you know, one of the things I like about you, Will, and it kept coming back all the time. Even when you were an executive chef, you still work the line.
Yeah.
Even when you were a consultant, you still work the line. Even now that you've got involved in the digital marketing business, you're still working the line because you're still talking to customers. And I reckon if I looked at why is Will successful, why is those he gets involved with successful? Because you work the line.
That's
so
true.
many people I see and I talk to every day, they become CEO and they forget occasionally it's a good thing to wash the toilets.
Right.
Because you never know what you find in the bathroom, you know? And it's a great thing to get back on that line and make a sauce, stir a soup, or go out and see a customer, you know? Pretend that you're just a salesman, you know? I tell people I'm just a humble marketer. That's all I am. All right, and away you go. So, Will, thank you, mate.
My pleasure.
I had so much fun.
Me too.
Take care. Now, you better give us the flogging of
www.artofdentalmarketing.com.
Thank you very much. Have a great day, mate. See ya.
You too.
Hey everybody, it's Shane from TheCamel.co and I'm here with Jeffrey and I just want to put a quick word out. Do you know that this video is one of hundreds of videos that are available on the Camel channel? And what are the videos? There's videos on how to sell, there's videos on how to market, there's videos on how to make something. We do a great curry. You name it, we've got videos about it, and we've also got a lot of videos about the special offers that the Camel has. So it's not just this thing that you're seeing now, it's a lot of information, a lot of services. You want to know more? Just click on the subscribe button. That way you don't have to search, it automatically comes to your inbox. You do that, have a great day. From me, Jeffrey, talk to you soon. See ya.